What is going on YouTube, Twitch, and people who are watching on Twitter? How you doing? Transfer deadline day was yesterday. The window has now officially shut, and we know the squad we're going into this season. Have we done a good job? Will we turn around and say this was a masterclass waiting to happen? We just need to give it time. Or is it one of those windows we'll look back at and absolutely regret? That's what we're going to do. We're going to break down each and individual transfer to see how risky these transfers were, or was it a true masterclass from Arsenal Football Club? Let's get right into it. Welcome back, people. Obviously, this window we have spent an astronomical amount, the most we've spent in a window in a very long time. £156 million was spent to rebuild Project Arteta or Project Youth. We have signed everyone under the age of 23, and we have spent a huge amount banking on the youth to take over. Is this going to create a competitive environment, which Arteta keeps talking about, or will this be the biggest flop that Arsenal Football Club, and is this the direction we want to go in? But what I am going to do is break down each and every transfer that we've done and tell you how they fit in, where they can improve us, and what kind of profile we'll be looking at. So people, if you are new, do hit that subscribe button, do like, and comment what you guys think, because I'd love to hear your opinions on how you think this transfer window's gone, whether you rate it, whether you don't, whether you think it's a good one that we'll see in a few years' time. But it'll be brilliant to hear your opinion on this as well. But let's get into the first signing of the summer. Of course, Kieran Tierney being riddled with injuries meant that we needed to bring in a backup left back to play in the absence of Kieran Tierney. We know he can have a few injuries throughout the season, which keeps him out, where we need someone to come in and step in and keep the performances and keep the structure and the system the same. They opted for Nuno Tavares to come in and be that backup to Kieran Tierney. Now, we know what backup signings mean. It can go either very old or very young, and we opted for the latter. We wanted someone young with a high ceiling, someone we can train up to be that man to take the reins when Kieran Tierney is not fit to play. We needed someone who can have the attacking ability to be able to go forward and be dominant in the attack, but also someone who's got a ceiling to improve, and that is where Tavares comes in. Nuno Tavares does have a high ceiling. He's a very raw talent. That's what you've got to understand. He's got so much going for him, as well as things that aren't quite for the now, but he is a potential signing. Now, when we look at Nuno Tavares and the games that he's played, obviously we've seen him in pre-season more than we've seen him in the league, and he shows an aggressive intent to go forward, to attack the ball, to make the ball and make those attacking plays happen. We obviously seen a very good goal from him. He seems to be comfortable with both his right and his left foot, which is very crucial to what we need. But one thing that he does lack is the positional awareness and also the ability to defend at the moment. But that will come with time. The more game time he gets, the more experience he gets. And if we can culture him right and train him right and develop him, he can become a very talented left back. He's definitely got the physicality and the pace to play in the Premier League. It's just whether we can fine-tune him to be the left back that we need in the absence of Kieran Tierney. That is the real question. Obviously, a lot of people have their reservation, but this signing was £8 million. For a backup to Kieran Tierney, that for me is good business. He's a very young player who has the potential to become a very top level signing. But obviously time will tell. He's very raw. That's what we can tell. There's no outstanding attributes at the moment, but it seems to be a signing which makes sense with the profile that we were being told, a young up and coming potential signing. Now let's move on to the second signing of the summer, which was Albert Sambi. Yeah, so Sambi Lokonga signing from Anderlecht, playing under company, being the under-23s Belgium national as well, signed him for 17 million plus a few add-ons. Is this a signing we'll regret rather than going for a Basuma, rather than going for someone like Gomeresh or Kamara? Is this one of those signings that's going to come back and bite us in the arse? I personally think this profile of player is a box-to-box who can also play a number 6 once his positional awareness becomes a little bit better. It works in the Belgian league to have a few lacks of quality, but in the Premier League, you need to be on top of your game. And that's one thing that we need to see from Lokonga. Can he adapt and can he produce those positional deficiencies that he has in his game? One thing that we do know, he's got a very good pass range. He's a very good box-to-box midfielder who can connect the defense to midfield to attack, and that's one thing that we've seen. Obviously, with the AFCONs looming as well in January, we need someone to take that party position, and he fits that role really well. Obviously, with the suspension of Xhaka and getting the red card against Man City, it may mean we'll see a pairing of Thomas Partey and Lokonga to see how that works out. I have my reservations. I don't think they'll work together right now, due to the fact that Lokonga, for me, doesn't have the positional awareness to be able to play a deeper role, but we could be proven wrong. And that's something which is exciting to see. Two people who can ball progress, who has the athleticism and has the passing range to be able to play out the back and make that connection from midfield to attack. That's something which we've been lacking. We've not been seeing it with Granit Xhaka over the years. Due to his fact that he's not as athletic as many other players, it does make it harder for him to be able to get that ball, receive it on the left-hand side, and pop it off quick enough before he's pressed. He's not as press resistant, whereas with Lokonga has evaded the press in many games, and I feel like he'll only develop to become better. So for me, that is a very astute signing, a very clever signing, and I feel like his value will be protected, and he's a very young signing who's a captain of Anderlecht, who took on the responsibilities to lead a team, so he could be the answer or the solution to a future leader of this club. But obviously, time will tell on that one as well. But then, obviously, the third signing of the summer, the most controversial, Ben White. So, Ben White signing from Brighton for £50 million was one of the most controversial signings of our summer. A lot of people arguing that we could have used that money for better resources to build up the squad and the starting 11 a lot better than bringing Ben White in alone. And that, to me, is very true. We could have used £50 million to bring in the likes of Basuma, Awar, potentially even a better right back, which we'll get into who we signed as well. But Ben White, what does he offer? What does he bring to the table? Let's just look at the signing and the profile rather than the money that was spent on him. He's a ball progressing, ball playing centre back. Yes, a lot of arguments with William Saliba being basically the same profile. Why load him out and bring in the same profile? They were my questions as well. Why did we do that? But let's look at Ben White. Ben White is a very astute, very solid on the ball, and he can transition our defense and playing out at the back to a different dimension. He's got a very good vertical pass. He's got a very good pass range, which can allow us to transition smoothly from defense to attack and become fluid in our counterattacks. And that's one thing which will be crucial with the way Arteta wants to play. He plays an asymmetrical system where the left-hand side is actually a lot more further up the pitch than the right-hand side, and the right-hand side actually tucks in. So in this case, the right back would come in and play more of a centre-back, making it a back three. And that's the way he feels he needs to move forward. And that's why Granit Xhaka comes in and tucks into the left-back position when Kieran Tierney does bomb forward. And it looks like Saka's going to be taking on more of the left wing role than the right wing role. And that's where the right back in question has come in to help Pepe be more advanced. But what Ben White offers is more of a transitional play, because the right-hand side is meant to be the deeper of the left-hand side. We know Gabriel is not the most comfortable on the ball and playing out the back. And that is why we're looking at the right-hand side to make up for those deficiencies. Hi, RJ, I hope you're all right, and hope you've had a good day. And yeah, and I wonder how your window went. Obviously, being a United fan, how do you rate your own window? And how, as an opposition, do you rate Arsenal this season? And, you know, we want to play that way. We want to play where the right-hand side takes more control to dictate play from the back, to then transition it to the left-hand side when they bomb forward. Because we know in football, players do get attracted to the ball, and that's where the heavy overloads are. So if we can attract them to the right-hand side, create gaps on the left-hand side of our attack, then we can make those quick switches from the back. But that is obviously a question whether Arteta does that, and he continues to play an asymmetrical system, which we've come to see, and that's where Ben White does really well. He's a Harry Maguire-esque on the ball, where he does carry the ball really well. He can carry, he can progress us up the pitch and take out the midfield in those plays. So it's a very exciting signing. 50 million, I do agree, is a lot of money to be paying for a signing like him. But at the end of the day, sometimes you do have to overpay for certain players. But my only disappointment was we didn't get everything done. And that's why a lot of people are annoyed with the signing. But let's look at the fourth signing and the incoming of the summer transfer window. Another controversial signing, Aaron Ramsdale. Yes, so there have been two controversial signings in this transfer window, not for reasons other than value and football, not that they've done something outside of it, but Aaron Ramsdale coming in at around £28 million or 23 with add-ons, something crazy like that anyway. And it was a lot of money to be spending on a young and up-and-coming keeper. But don't forget, at the age of 23, not many keepers get an opportunity to play week in, week out and start in the Premier League, regardless of team, regardless of quality, regardless of what position they're playing in. Yes, he has been relegated 3 times. I understand the concerns people have, but look at the player, look at what he offers, and look at the play as an individual, and look at the profile. We need to stop, putting other factors which are out of the control of an individual to change. A lot of relegation teams don't actually have an issue keeping the ball out of the net. It's more about scoring goals. We can see Brighton have one of the best XG teams within the Premier League, but they lack to take those chances. And that's what a lot of these low-end teams have their deficiencies in. They don't have a goal-scoring striker, and when they do, they end up selling them to bigger teams, and that's what we need to focus on, because Aaron Ramsdale, for me, is a brilliant goalkeeper who's got a lot of potential, and there's a lot of videos out there from goalkeeping coaches and goalkeeper experts within the field who have also backed that claim. He's a very good ball-playing goalkeeper who's got good pass range on him. He can offer us a lot more stability playing out of the back, and he has that aerial dominance as well. He can catch those corners. He can help us with set pieces. One of the things that we've struggled with leading up to all of the games that we've seen is corners and set pieces have been an Achilles heel for Arsenal Football Club. Aaron Ramsdale does claim a lot of these crosses and isn't afraid to go in for the ball. That's one thing that we have lacked in a goalkeeping position. RJ here said, my opinion on Arsenal transfer window. I mean, it hasn't been perfect. You spent the most out of everyone. People need to know that Arsenal need to get rid of Deadwood. Bellerin is a good example, which we did. Obviously, he's been loaned out to Real Betis, pretty much last minute drama in the window, which we didn't expect to happen, to be honest with you. I didn't expect that to happen so late on the window. But obviously, it's one of those where he has been done. He has gone. Obviously, there were better opportunities. We could have got rid of Xhaka. The offer did come in for 18 million from AS Roma. We decided to turn that down, and use the extension clause, and sign him onto a new deal. But obviously, we needed to do that if you're going to commit to keeping a player. That is just naturally what you do. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. I'll just say for United, other than a CDM, it probably would have been one of the greatest transfer windows of all time, in my opinion. Better than this year's PSG. Varane, Maguire will be sick. I agree. I think they complement each other really well, and what Maguire lacks, Varane offers. But they're both dominant, and that's one of the things that you will see a lot. Varane has been on a decline for the last sort of 2 seasons, which is the only question mark over him. But I don't think that should be too much of a concern for you guys. I do think he will come in and make a massive impact. And obviously signing, arguably one of the greatest of all time in Cristiano Ronaldo. Not my GOAT, but I do obviously respect the fact that people do think he is one of the greatest, definitely one of the greatest goal scorers of all time. And he can come into the Premier League even at this age and do really well for you guys. So that's going to be an exciting one to see whether he's got the legs to play in the Premier League week in, week out and not drop his level. Sancho's a good signing. Him, Greenwood, and Rashi going to smoke up the Prem for the next while. Ronaldo is back. Can't wait for someone who was on the first people who inspired me to. Yeah, and that's the thing. He has inspired a generation. A lot of the people who are growing up today, are the Messi, Ronaldo era, and that's the thing. It's exciting to see him back home where he belongs at Manchester United, at Old Trafford, tearing it up for them. It would have been so damaging to see him at Man City because I do think it does tarnish the legacy just slightly. But it is going to be one of those. We'll have to wait and see how he does. Ronaldo was never loved by Madrid or Juve. They used him for big names. He was made in the best. 100%. And this is the thing, Ronaldo made his name at Manchester. I think he's always loved the club. He's always loved what it stood for. And I don't think he ever truly wanted to leave, but to fulfill a dream, because his dream was always to play for Real Madrid. And when they come knocking, everyone's going to consider it and maybe even move. And I think at the time, it probably was the best time for him to move on. Getting £80 million, coming to the end of the era of Sir Alex Ferguson, it would have been a good investment to put back into the squad to really elevate you guys further for the next manager to take over. And obviously the money we know hasn't been well spent until this window. And I agree, if you did sign a DM, you probably arguably had one of the best windows of the Premier League era, because you've bought in some quality signings, and that's the only thing that United fans can't say is why they're going to win the league. And because they just don't have a DM. That's the only reason I realistically think, and maybe obviously Ole's quality to manage the team. But obviously, let's move on to the next signing that was made in this window, and that was one of the players returning in Martin Odegaard. Yes, people. Obviously, one of the biggest signings of the summer was who that number 10 position was going to be. James Maddison was floating around. Martin Odegaard was more of the priority for Arsenal Football Club. But let's be real. £30 million for Martin Odegaard is a bargain, considering they wanted 50 to 60 million for this player. Now, does Martin Odegaard answer all the questions in that number 10 position? Probably not. Yeah, let's be real. He's still a developing player who's still to reach a ceiling. Thank you, RJ, man. Have a good time, you too, pal. Who's yet to realize his potential. He has got a ceiling on him. But the good thing is this is a permanent signing for the next 5 years. And that's the one thing that people are overlooking. Once a player is settled, once a player comes in and has a really good time and he can settle and he can find a home, then they perform to their absolute best. Having an uncertain future does mean players do have a lack of sort of confidence to want to play because they can't ever commit. And that's where the issue came in with Odegaard. I do think the fact that now we've signed him on a 5-year deal does really elevate him and will elevate him. I won't forget that they tried to get Buendia at the start of the window. But you know what it is? Now, I know they wanted him, but to a certain degree, I don't think they wanted to overpay for him either. And he wasn't the priority, but if they got him for cheap, they would have gone for him. But you've also got to understand, Buendia isn't a true number 10. He's more on the right wing and obviously a number 8, which is what people keep forgetting. What we want to do is commit to a 4-2-3-1 more than we want to commit to playing a 4-3-3 right now. Obviously, if the signing of Basuma came in, then a Buendia makes a lot more sense. The likes of Hassan Mawar make more sense because they're more suited to a number 8 role. Not saying they can't play a number 10. It's just a position they haven't played a lot. Russ in the chat as well there. Big up yourself. Obviously, if you guys are new, do hit the like and subscribe button. But for me, Martin Odegaard and James Maddison were the only two if we're going to commit to this asymmetrical 4-2-3-1 system, which Arteta seems to want to play. And every signing that we look at seems to indicate that that's the way forward for Arsenal Football Club. To have two people sit in front of the bank of 4, have one ball progressing midfielder and have that number 10 who can connect everything. And that's what Odegaard does. And also when you look at the strikers that we have in terms of Aubameyang, obviously the only one who would suit each other is ESR and Lacazette playing together. Odegaard suits an Aubameyang a lot better than ESR does. And that's what we got to look at as well. To get the best of Aubameyang, you need someone who can play the ball in behind, who doesn't always want to play a 1-2 tiki-taka integrate football to create their chances. He is very much so touch and pass, touch and move, and that's what Aubameyang really likes, and that's what he thrives on. But then also when we look at the way that we play, Aubameyang does favour drifting onto the left, and the next signing, which I'm going to bring in now as well, in Tomiyasu, brings exactly. Now, obviously, we've also signed Tomiyasu from Bologna. A late signing, panic buy. Was it something we just signed because we needed a right back, or is this a data-driven signing? Now, for those who follow me on Twitter at Guna Souls will know that I did release a thread on this player talking in detail about what he has to offer and what his key skills are. Now, one thing that we've got to realize, we've got to talk about our system. We've got to talk about what Arteta's trying to play and then look at the profile of signings. Is he the name that we wanted? Absolutely not. We wanted, a lot of the fan base wanted a Emerson, wanted a Sergino Dest, wanted a Tariq Lamptey, wanted a Max Aarons, Tyler Adams. Some people wanted, obviously, Baku being, Rydal Baku was thrown around as well. These are the kinds of players that people wanted, more attack-minded right back. But let me ask you guys a question. If you had the opportunity today to sign Aaron Wan-Bissaka, would you turn that down? The answer probably is no. And that's the mold that he fits. Tomiyasu fits the mold of Aaron Wan-Bissaka, but with better pass and a better passing range. Coming from a midfield position, starting off his career as a DM, transitioning into a right back and a centre back, he's a very comfortable ball playing fullback, a ball playing centre back. He's comfortable with both feet. That allows you so many more angles to be able to play out the back, resist the press, and that high reward, risk to reward situation that we want to play. But at the moment, we don't have players good enough or capable enough of playing that system. That's why a Tomiyasu coming in to also, not only that, but bring in the aerial dominance, which Ben White lacks. That's what we've got to look at. Sometimes signings don't have to make sense as a name, but make sense as a profile. Not every single time does it have to be the best signing, but it's got to be the best signing for the situation. And that is what he has to offer for me. And when we also look at it, the way that we play an asymmetrical system where the left-hand side is predominantly where we attack from, if we can use the right-hand side in Ben White and Tomiyasu to play out the back, resist the press, break the press, and be resistant to it, turn the press and actually become and turn that risk into a reward factor by turning and making those long diagonal passes straight through to a Saka or a Taney will open up so many more dimensions to the way we can attack. And that's what Tomiyasu brings. So for me, he is a data-driven signing. We've looked at everything. We've looked at, okay, where are we gone wrong? Where have we gone wrong? Aerially, from set pieces, offensively, defensively, haven't been good. So what have we done? We've signed a 6'2", aerially dominant fullback to offer that support to a Ben White, but also to always have a player who can be aerially dominant. Gabriel obviously has been out since the start of the season, and we have missed that. We've missed that aerial presence from someone who's going to be dominant, and that's what Tomiyasu can cover. So if one or the other is out, we've always got one at least. But also with that, because he's so defensively minded, because he's such a centre-back at heart as well, what that offers is the near post from the right-hand side. It means we'll be defensively a lot better. And it also allows Pepe, if he is going to be the right winger of this season, to be more advanced and take responsibilities away from him from the defensive aspect. And that, for me, can only be a good thing for him, because we know Pepe does not like to track back, and he likes to play on the line of the shoulder of the last defender. And this will allow him to just keep pushing forward, be on that halfway line and receive the ball a lot higher up the pitch rather than having to come deep. But also, because of the way that Tomiyasu can pass, it'll allow him to play a lot more confidently, a lot more freely, and transition a lot better from defence to attacks. And this is one thing that we've been seeing. The football that we've seen, the performances that we've seen haven't been good enough. And we all agree unanimously as a fan base that this needs to change. I'm not saying Tomiyasu will come in and be a complete success, but let's be honest, for 16 million, with the potential to be 20 million. It's not a bad signing for a 22-year-old who's gonna have who's got a lot of potential. He is highly rated in the Serie A. Even when you look at top journalists who watch and follow the Serie A, have praised key attributes and have actually said he fits a mold and he suits us and he solves a problem. So at the end of the day, sometimes we've got to do our due diligence. We've got to do our own research to dictate why a player is being signed, rather than coming to conclusions just because we hate the regime, just because we hate the Cronkies and Edu and Arteta, that the player isn't good. That's all I'm going to say, because for me, just sometimes you may not know of a player, but just do a bit of research. Just look into it. Look at why and what the attributes of this player are. Look at what we're missing and what we need in that right back position. Of course, it would be more exciting to get a Hakimi profile of player, not him necessarily, but an Emerson. It might be more exciting, but will that fix a problem? Because their defensive deficiencies will show. Because you've got to understand, Tomiyasu's only been dribbled past 13 times last season, whereas with Emerson has been dribbled past 39 times. That's a drastic difference. There's a huge gap in that. And that's one thing that you will get, is one-on-one defending. He is really good. And for now, he does fill a gap. For £20 million, let's just call it with the add-ons, for £20 million, it's a no-brainer. Someone who can then fill into the centre-back position. And next summer, when the pressures of us signing key depth players, we can go and get those big position filled. And that's what I'm banking on. I think the club is banking on European football to then go get a massive right back, a big name right back. That's going to be the future of the club, and a big named centre mid. I know a lot of people wanted Basuma and that to be the future. That would have solved that issue. But for me, we'll have to wait and see, because this window does not clarify what the plan and direction of this club is. It shows us an indication and it shows us speculations to what they could be doing, but it doesn't give us a definitive answer of what's to come, because we'll find out in the next summer window what direction truly they're going to go down. Because when we look at Liverpool's 15-16 window, look, I'm not comparing, I'm just talking about different situations. They made 5 to 6 signings and then brought their big boys in. Then they brought the Van Dijks and the Alissons in to really bolster and make them into a league competing side. I'm not saying that's going to happen next summer, but we never know. Sometimes you just need the squad to come together. You need to fill those gaps, because if Partey's injured, we will have to go back to the midfield that we had last season or the season before with Xhaka and El Neni if we didn't buy a Lokonga. And that would have been a complaint for a lot of people. Why didn't we do that? And if Taney gets injured, then a lot of people are going to question, why didn't we go get a backup left back? So Tavares did need to come in. And that's the thing. People just need to broaden their horizons a little bit and not be critical just because of the regime that signed them. But obviously, guys, if you guys have got any questions about any of the signings we've made, or whether you want my thoughts or opinions on certain signings, please let me know. And obviously, I'll get them answered. But if not, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to wrap up the stream and obviously call it. But for me, how has the window been? I'll be completely honest. I wanted a Basuma. I wanted a top-level right-back in a Max Aarons, even if it was Tariq, well, not really Tariq Lamptey for me, but a Rydal Baku. Someone like that would have been better to come in, get that striker in, get a top level. If we had gotten Maddison, that changes the projection of how this project could have turned out. And next season, we could have got those signings like your Lokongas, your Tavares, and the likes. But I am not going to criticize the window too much, because this could be one that we look back at in 2 years' time or 2 seasons' time and say, do you know what? That's the window that set us up for success. And I don't want to give them too much credit, because I don't know if that's going to be the case. And that's my reservation, to spend £150 million to not really improve or raise the level of your first team. The squad has been raised, by the way. I will admit the squad level has raised. Lokonga does raise the bar of your squad. Tavares yet to be known. Ben White does as well. He can start. And that's obviously one of those things. But you're here with a question. Who do you expect needs the least time? And all right, both of them. Okay. I'd say least time on paper, probably Ben White, just because he's accustomed to the league a little bit better. Most time to settle. Probably I think Tavares probably will be the longest one to settle just because he won't get the game time to settle. Whereas I feel like there's opportunities for Lokonga to come in, especially with Xhaka being suspended, I believe, for 2 to 3 games because of the red card against Man City. So he might be coming in a lot earlier than probably planned. And that may just give him the edge to settle in a lot quicker. But for me, Tavares, it depends on Tierney's injuries and obviously League Cups and playing in like different cup and domestic competitions. And that's when he comes in. So I think it'll be the least time will probably be Ben White just by logic. And then the most time will probably be Tavares because he's not going to get given the game time. But if you're talking raw league game time to settle, I would say probably Lokonga, just because he is a lot younger and coming into the Premier League in a midfield position where a lot of responsibilities, especially with the way we're going to be putting him for Xhaka more than likely, playing him in a more of a deeper role. There is a lot of responsibilities on your shoulders. Not to say he can't do them, but he's the one that I think on paper probably needs the most time to settle. But we do have obviously 6 people watching. Obviously, if you guys are new to the YouTube channel, please do subscribe, do like, and obviously share. And if you guys have got any questions about profiles of players or anything that you'd like to know, please let me know. And obviously, I'll try and answer your question the best that I can to the best of my ability. Yo-Yo here with a question. Which of the loanees are you looking most and least forward to returning to the club? This is so confusing because there's so many loans that could have been sold. But in terms of coming back, I think Nelson, number one, I people who watch me on other channels, I've said this is one of the best pieces of business that the club has done, and I'm surprised that they've done it. And it's like they've activated a brain cell for one transfer, and they used it on this one, where they extended his contract and then loaned him out to Feyenoord. I'm not saying he had a short time on his contract or anything, but it just made a lot of sense. Going into the Dutch league suits him. Nelson is a very skillful, tricky winger who suits that style of league, and that's one thing that I will say. And for me, that's the one I'm excited to see come back because it could be his ticket back into the team. I just feel like Nelson just needs a consistent game time to be able to display his performances. And for me, that's going to be exciting to see whether he can come back and actually perform. I think they chose the right league to go into as well. But obviously, like I said, it's one of those time will tell loanees. But the one that I'm least looking forward to returning to the club is the obvious one. It's fairly the obvious one is Bellerin. I just think we need to sell him. I wish there was an option, an obligation to buy. So, yeah, that's the least looking forward to. BX is going to big up yourself. Tavares is going to blooded early with Tierney's injury record. He'll be Prem proven soon along with Sambi. This is the thing, and this is why I'm saying I don't know, because obviously, like if you're talking length of time, as in how many months or how many days, then obviously Tavares is probably the least likely because it depends on Tierney getting injured. And touch wood, I'm not saying I want him injured just so that Tavares can get game time, but it's likely to happen. It is a likely scenario. So if that does happen and he gets a run of 3 or 4 games, he will embed a lot quicker. But Lokonga is, in my head, he's definite to start the next 2, maybe 3 games, depending on how the suspension goes. That's the only reason I say that Tavares is the least out of the lot. But I do think they might need the same amount of games to settle in. Liverpool addiction, obviously, Sonny here. Tomiyasu, is he even any good? The verdict's out. The verdict's out on him. But when you look at the profile of the player, he does suit he's not a world beater. He's not one of the, oh my God, yes, we got that right back we wanted. No, he's a good profile. That's what I will say. Once you do a little bit of research and you look into the data and the stats, now they don't really tell you the full picture, but that's the only way that we can really make sure a signing's good, because you're never going to know. You can sign a top level player, but they can come to your club and flop. There was high expectation for Pepe. I don't think he's lived up to the hype or the expectation that we set on him. I'm not saying he's been a complete flop, but for the price and expectation he has. So the verdict's out. I wouldn't say he's a bad signing for me, but he is one of those who shows heart, shows dedication, seems to be really happy. That's ultimately the basis that I want to see. He's really excited to get going. He does fill the role of us having an asymmetrical backline where the right hand side does come in a lot more and play that inverted sort of centre back going into a three with that left hand side midfielder dropping in, whether it's Xhaka, Lokonga, El Neni, whoever it may be in that position next to Partey is the one to drop in to make a three at the back. So we'll have to wait and see. And he's got a good vertical pass. So profile-wise, makes sense. But I don't know how good he'll actually be. We'll have to wait and see. Is Kolasinac still here? He is, but he's still got a week to go. So we can technically still get rid of him within the week of within a period of a week. So he is technically still here, but he looks to be moved on. He'll play for the badge. Yeah, that's what I mean. Sometimes, you know what? You need a player that will just simply play for the badge. Give it his 100%. And sometimes, you know what? You might not be good, but because you're working so hard, that can be everything. So, Yo-Yo here with the question. With Laka and Nketiah having no futures at Arsenal, do Balogun, Martinelli get more game time? For me, it's whoever proves it. Martinelli needs to prove himself. Balogun especially needs to prove himself. Not to diss them. I'm not saying it in a dissy way or not to rate them. But for me, they need to prove themselves in a different way in terms of, because they've not been playing, they need to be better than what we have in terms of performance, not by profile and name. And just because we want them to play, but they need to prove it on the pitch by scoring goals and just basically making a name for themselves. But with Laka and Nketiah, I don't want to see them play in the Premier League. If they play cup games, cool. But if Balogun isn't playing Premier League games, then I want to see him more than I want to see Nketiah. That's the way I'll look at it. And for me, Lacazette suits certain games. So I wouldn't mind just playing him in certain games where I feel like he does suit him more than an Aubameyang would, especially with those deep block teams or low block teams like your Burnleys, like your even in a way Southamptons. Those teams that are going to really sit back, Lacazette suits more than an Aubameyang because you're not going to get the space in behind. So I don't mind the Laka playing so much, but Nketiah, I'm sorry, no. Just because you've not proven yourself to me either. And yeah, that's the way I look at it. Pepe has suffered due to the hefty... There's an argument to be made. There's definitely an argument there to be made on that one, whether it's Arteta or whether it's Pepe. Obviously, a lot of people saying he's not been given the consistent game time required to really prove himself. So the verdict is still out. But for me, this is a make or break season for Pepe. I'm not saying he's the biggest problem at the club, but he is one of those which we did put a heavy investment in. And for me, for the price, we haven't got that return. But he hasn't. Look, everyone's suffering attackingly. But hopefully with the additions and them gelling together, we may see something which transforms the team attackingly and we see the best out of them. Obviously, not sentiment here saying, obviously, Kolasinac is still playing. Yeah, I mean, he played the cup game and obviously played against Man City. We'll need to do everything we can out of Laka, everything we can get out of Laka this season. Yeah, 100%. And I do think he does suit certain teams against certain teams, so we can still use him. Look, he seems to be a professional that is going to play, not cause issues on that front. Yo-Yo here saying Balogun, Martinelli should have been loaned out. Neither are better finishers than Oba, Laka, Pepe. True, I do agree. I don't think, obviously, Martinelli is at the level yet or Balogun. But I think Martinelli can stay because on the left-hand side or on the wing, he is brilliant. He's something off the bench which brings a whole different energy, which we do lack sometimes. We do lack someone who's just going to be able to just press teams, bring that intensity and really cause a problem, which we don't really have at the team. Whereas with Balogun, I can see the argument being made there for why Balogun needs to go. But we do have cup competitions, which I hope we utilise to play him. Martinelli was on point before the injury and Arteta. The injury could have affected him more than Arteta. And but for me, look, it's difficult because we'll never know until Arteta goes whether it was solely Arteta or was it the injury that caused this. But for me, like, I've not seen enough of Martinelli even before the injury to say whether his finishing was any good. Yes, he had good moments and he has scored some good and vital goals, which, let's be honest, like, you know, not a lot of people expected. But for me, it's one of those where he needs to be eased back, and I've said that. And I think this season we'll see a lot more from him. But I think it might be a bit harsh for me to say that. But I'm excited to see him play. Once he gets a bit of consistency within game time, he'll be fine. Honestly, I have no doubts about Martinelli. But Balogun, I do agree, probably could have been loaned out. But then that would have been one of those we had to do later in the window because Nketiah was meant to go. We were looking to let one of Aubameyang or Lacazette go. Then we would be really thin on the striker position. But also, I don't think Martinelli is fit for the number 9 just yet. We should be playing him out on the wing and maybe later on bring him into the middle. It's just one of those. Time will tell. Let's see. Why didn't Nketiah out the door? Palace should have signed Edouard in Palace side. Now, to be fair, this is where I'll defend the club. It was a greedy agent and a greedy player. I don't know if Nketiah was greedy, but the agent definitely was. He was demanding a very high agent fee and demanding very high wages, which Crystal Palace did not want to commit to. So I can't blame this one on the club, to be completely honest with you. I think it'd be very unfair and very hypocritical of me to say this is on the club when actually the club accepted the offer, but it broke down on the personal terms. So that's all I say. I don't know how true that is, by the way, but that's just what I've seen. But we'll find out more about this as the season goes on. Every other club made logistical signings. I wouldn't say that though. Like, I don't think they've been bad signings. It's just I feel like these signings could have come next summer rather than this transfer window, where I think maybe getting starting 11 level raises would have been a bit better for us and our development and getting back into Europe. Whereas with right now, we put our place in a level of uncertainty to get back into Europe. We're struggling to say top 6. Let's be honest, as a fan base, we're really struggling to say we can definitely with the squad get top 6. I do think it is there, and I do think they've recruited well, but I just think this was maybe not the right summer to do that. Maybe we needed to get those starting 11 places first and then bought these players in. Big up yourself, Ryan. Russ, that was down to Eddie. We wasn't happy. Eddie wasn't happy with the money being offered. The contract and personal terms were exactly the reason. Pepe was unwanted record signing. I sympathise for him, especially with Arteta over reliance on the left. I mean, obviously, look, you know, this is a season where I do think he might be back. Now, big up yourself as well, man. Obviously, if you haven't checked out Ryan Williams' channel, do go out and check that. Obviously, if you've got a link, Ryan, or even your Twitter, just add it in the chat. Do follow him. Do subscribe to him. Brilliant content. Keeps it real. Keeps it 100. So definitely. And there will be a panel coming on later on in the year as well. I am going to try and get the podcast back as I get a bit more accustomed to work schedules. So as I feel Martinelli should stay wide, in my opinion, cut in, etc. But he not start him all the time, leave Oba in the middle. That's the thing. I do think Oba and Martinelli could complement each other, and he's more suited for the left wing side at the moment. Once he's fully fit, that's when we can bring him into the middle. We have a championship grade players, 1 or 2, maybe. This is an overreaction. I'm sorry. This is a bit overreaction from a lot of fans. We're not a championship grade. Let's be honest. The players have got quality. It's just whether the manager can understand that and get the best out of them. Watching the youth is only reason to watch Arsenal this season, pretty much. The attackers have shackled by the manager. ESR, Saka rightfully praised, but are both goal shy. 100%. This is the one thing they need to improve is their output. And if they do that, I'll be completely honest with you, they will tear the league. And that is one of the deficiencies in the club, is where the goals are coming from. And I'm not loaning out Martinelli. Mismanage another youth with 10 Prem goal. That's the thing. I wouldn't loan Martinelli out personally. I'd just play him out wide. But Balogun, I can see the logic to that. Palace finally get a finisher. Benteke been, MIA for years. And that's the thing. Is this what unlocks the Vieira team? Because he has struggled in the opening games. Obviously, a brilliant Conor Gallagher performance. Was it against West? No, who did they play? Well, the 2-2 draw that they had, I completely forgot who they played. A brilliant Conor Gallagher performance. Even when you look at them in the friendlies, they're a high-pressing, high-intensity team. And I feel like the missing piece to the puzzle is definitely Edouard. He fits them so well, coming in deep, connecting play, bringing Zaha into it. And especially when Eze comes in, especially when Elise is really unleashed, that's going to be an amazing team. They're going to be one to watch this season. Now, Balogun should be loaned out, not Martinelli. I 100% agree with that. We don't deserve Europe, nor do I want to see us getting dropped by lower oppositions. Yeah. I mean, no one deserves anything. Let's be honest. You have to earn it. Hopefully, Paddy V stays in the job now. This is the thing. I think, you know what? Like, bringing in an Edouard unlocks his team. So hopefully he gets given the opportunity to really gel this team. His ideas aren't bad. It's just whether he can execute them. That's the problem with managers today who don't have a lot of experience or high-level experience. They do struggle a little bit. But obviously, 100% see. Money over first-team football says it all. 100%. But I don't know whether it's Nketiah or whether it's his agent. So I will allow it for now, but I do know his agent is very greedy. I can't say his agent's greedy, but he wants to get the absolute. He wants to rinse wherever he ends up. Another manager gets us firing on all cylinders, but the right manager gets us firing on all cylinders. There are managers out there who don't. So I will say, the right manager to come in with the right philosophy in mind. We are more attack first, defense second team. So that's what we need. We need an Enrique and Eric Ten Hag. They're the kind of Conte for me doesn't fit the mold at the moment because he'll need at least 2 to 3 seasons just to switch a lot of play, build his system. So I wouldn't say Conte's right now. But if you want instant success from this team, you're bringing an Enrique level player. Absolutely sort out the first 11 before buying backups, which the club set out to do. You buy first teamers to make all players back. That's what I've been trying to argue with a lot of people. And but look, this, like I said, this could be something we look back at and say, that changed us. This window defined us in a good or a bad way. And that's the thing. This could be a make or break window. And that's why I'm willing to let it play out a little bit. I'm not in agreement, by the way, guys. I'm not saying I agree with the transfer, because if anyone's followed me, I've been an advocate to bring Basuma in. I've been massive on Awar to come in. And then obviously when the Madison deals, like the Madison room, it was rumours. When he came in, I was like, you know what? That would just propel our team to new heights. But of course, we have to be level-headed and be real with the signings that we have. They're not bad. They're just not going to fix the issues right this second, which is the resume. And it's also how quickly do they realize the potentials and how quickly do they come in and really make an impact on this team. I was El Neni was banging goals, but he does bang them. He just doesn't bang them enough. Hammers, looking forward to seeing the squad under Arteta's replacement. Do you know what? All right, let's get into let's talk about the elephant in the room. Obviously, if you guys have a different opinion on Arteta, do you think he deserves the time? Do you think he can turn this around, or do you think sack and get rid? Because I'd be interested to see if there are people willing to back him right now. So I just want to see. I'm not saying anyone's right or wrong in this situation, but I just want to hear what people have to say on the whole Arteta situation, because there is a massive divide. There are people saying, look, he's going to have his spine back, he's going to have his players back, and he will turn this around. There's got to be no excuses for beating Norwich and Burnley, but I'd love to hear your opinions. Obviously, I'll get into mine as well. Sorry, you know what? When you're talking for so long, your throat just gets dry. I usually watch games at home because I can't contain my outbursts with this Arsenal. But going to watch with my local Arsenal supporters this season because we need unity. Yeah, you know what? I'm the same, man. I am the worst game goer because I'll be calling everyone stupid. I'll be calling everyone crap. I'll just be like, yo, you're trash, man. And it's just that moment. It's just in that moment. And it is funny. But you know what? I've been to games with some brilliant people who we just laugh it off. We have a lot of banter. So it is brilliant, man. Going to games is different to watching it at home. I'll be completely honest, man. The atmosphere, you get so put into the atmosphere that even if you are one of the most negative fans, if you've got a positive environment, it's just different. You'll start to cheer the team and back the team. It is brilliant. Kamani here. Hope I pronounced that right. Not the biggest Arteta fan, but I feel like blaming everything wrong with the club solely on Arteta is a bit of a trend. I think everyone overstates the capabilities of some of our players. I agree and disagree. I obviously, I don't think it's all Arteta's fault. I'm in absolute agreement with that. I don't think, and this is the thing. Look, just because the club has been built and the transfers have been different to what we wanted as a fan, doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make it that there isn't a plan. There isn't a route back into where we want to go. It may just not be the way we wanted it, and that's totally fine. It doesn't have to be. But I think when people say no, Arteta's the biggest problem, I do think it's a bit harsh because yes, he does make the playing decisions, but at the end of the day, having a novice owner, having a novice CEO, having a novice director of football, and then to add a novice manager to that equation is a recipe for disaster in any enterprise. And that's all we're seeing. We're seeing what the effects of having so many young novice people within their field really does. So that's all it is for me. I think if he had an experienced backroom staff behind him, he might have been the right person. But yeah, look, time will tell. Obviously, he's definitely going to get after the international break. There's nothing, as much as we want to say Arteta out, it's not going to change the fact he's going to be the manager at Norwich. They wouldn't back him up. They wouldn't have got him the right back if they were going to sack him. They would have just let the window finish there without bringing Tomiyasu in on his request, by the way. I'll be positive about the window. I like Lokonga and Willian left. You brought up Willian now. I've got a question for people. Because for me, I think what he did was admirable. And you know what? I respect it. He left. He said, don't pay me, whatever. We mutually terminate our contract. You guys can keep your £20 million. That's a lot of money for someone just to be like, you know what, forget it, keep it. Obviously, his agent has come out and said some slandering things. And he can come out and do that. Obviously, Willian has said some things as well. But I do respect it. I'm not even going to lie to you. I know people are going to sit there and go, well, he didn't really do anything, so why should we respect him? But I just think it's a good gesture, really. I'm not even going to lie. I have to respect it, It's just one of those. He should never have been appointed nor promoted and should have been sacked multiple times last season after the many home losses. Unai embarrassed Arteta and those who defended him. Yeah, I think a lot of people turned after the Villarreal game and said, this guy does not have the know-how on managing a team. And especially with the way he did it, with the false nine and everything like that, I was like, what are you doing? Just stick to your game plan. And the thing is, it was such an easy fix. Go from ESR, from being a middle player, to putting him in a strike. That's all he had to do. But obviously, at the end of the day, they decided to stick with it. I can't do anything about that. But for me, it was disappointing. It was one of those where even I started, at that point, I questioned him and I was starting to think, you know what? It's been disaster since. And obviously, I know people are going to talk about this post-Christmas form and praise Arteta on it. But ultimately, even that didn't get him top 6. It got him 8th again. So you do have to start to look at reality sometimes. And are we making a mistake by not sacking him now and keeping him in the job even after the international break? That will be a question that will get answered at Norwich and Burnley. But if he loses them, why didn't we just sack him? Is going to be the question. Why aren't we proactive as a club and getting managers in? I would sack Arteta now, but I'd give it 3 games, then sack Vinay, Edu, Arteta, if we don't get 7 to 9 from the next 3. Right, okay, so the next 3 are, just for people who may not know or may have forgotten, is Norwich, Burnley and Spurs. And I agree. I 100%. 2 are absolute wins. Absolute wins. You have no excuses not to beat Norwich, not to beat Burnley. And then Spurs, fine. If you draw or win, brilliant. Because, look, North London derbies are a difficult game. It's at home. We need a result minimum for me to be like, okay, you know what? I can see him turn the corner. But obviously time will tell. And I agree with that. I do think 7 to 9 points is a good, evaluation. And it's a good standard to have, especially with the opposition we're playing. Arteta, Arsenal kits are dirt cheap now. On a side note for Art, fair enough. I don't know if Arsenal were ambitious club, would make the decision we needed to make. Yeah, I think you sack him and bring a new man in, obviously with fresher ideas. But obviously they've had all these crises talks and try to revitalize the mentality of the club and bring the morale back up. So we'll have to wait and see, obviously, how this one turns out. Drogba took the piss all up. Yeah. It just seems to be a trend for Arsenal. We just get shot on right now as a player now. But, that's what I mean as a man. Obviously, as a player, we don't really rate him. Nor has he done anything for us. But as a man, yeah. Yep, 100%, man. Allow it, yeah. Bun that. This is the thing, though. We have to look at the overall picture. I understand. Do you know what? If you turn the corner after Christmas, comes into, let's say, this season and hits the ground running, and we had a good preseason, then yeah, you know what? We can argue that actually he's turned the corner. Things are looking more positive than negative, but it just seems to be a downward spiral again, and we can't afford to do that. The objective is European football, not top 4, but at least Europa League. And I know that sounds mad as an Arsenal fan that you're talking about Europa League being your expectation, but I'm just trying to be real with it. I don't want to be that fan to say he has to get top 4 because I don't believe with top 4 quality. Arteta is the era's Andre Villas-Boas and media. You know what? It's hard to disagree because he does have that silver tongue and he seems to be able to capture people in a PR sense. Maybe that's why he gets so much love. We don't know. We all know we're going to finish at bottom half. Why say let's give him 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games? It's going to be the same disaster. And I think why a lot of people are willing to kind of give him that game time is more so because Partey returns, Gabriel should be back, Ben White should be back. Obviously he's got Tomiyasu. He'll have basically his core spine back, and people are like, let's see what he does with his main players. But for me, it's like you're at Arsenal Football Club. When has the situation ever been perfect? Yes, guys, I'm gonna be ending it in 2 minutes on the hour mark. So if you guys have got any questions or any opinions you want me to kind of discuss with you, get them in now. And obviously, if you are new, please do subscribe, do like, and it is much, much appreciated, people. There's no leadership at Arsenal or Indians, no chief. We don't have a player that's in everyone's face representing the club. Yeah, and that's why I think a lot of people wanted Maddison, because Maddison instills that fear within the opposition and really demands respect. And it does show us that we are now being a serious club. That respect factor that we have, that's gone, completely gone from the opposition. They don't fear us when we go into these games. So, that's the disappointing thing. And I do kind of agree where we don't really have a lot of leaders in this team, but we seem to have signed young players who could be potential leaders, which it is what it is, in my opinion. I'm not sure really what to make of that. But yeah, Lokonga, obviously captain of Anderlecht, obviously playing in the Belgium under-23. I'm not sure if he got the captaincy, but high praises from Thierry Henry and obviously Vincent Kompany. And obviously Kompany giving him the captaincy, clearly seeing some forms of leadership. Obviously Man City's greatest leader in the Premier League era. So we do have to respect his decision as well. So maybe Lokonga is one for the future who can take that reign. It's inevitable that players will be missing due to injury and COVID after the international break. Tired of the excuse of this is what it feels like now. it's like a lot of excuses and a lot of slack being given to Arteta because of situations that it feels like exclusive to him, but everyone has to go through. COVID is a problem. Injuries are always a problem. And if you can't deal with them, are you the right man for the job? So I do agree with this. And I think, is it time to cut the excuses? Because for me, it's not even about the results. The results are one thing, but the performances on the pitch have been shockingly bad. I don't even know what I'm watching. Am I even watching Arsenal Football Club at the moment? Them long sleeve O2 vibes are done and dusted. Nobody fears the Arsenal anymore. We're sleeping giants, and hopefully one day. And I think that's why we've gone for the young strategy to hopefully close the gap with potential ceilings. But obviously, look, with this, that's where we've got to earn that respect back. We've got to really show ourselves and insert ourselves. But obviously, guys, I am going to end it there. I probably will be back tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Russ, big up yourself as well, man, and speak soon. Yeah, 100%. I'll drop a DM when I get a chance. But thank you very much for everyone for tuning in. If you are new, do subscribe, like, and share. And I will try and make as much as I can every sort of 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. I'll try and do a stream and try and become more consistent this year rather than what I've been doing where it's been a bit all over the place. But I do thank you all for your support. I hope you guys have a good rest of the evening. But thank you very much, people. This is Gunnar Souls signing out.